All right, here we go. Today we have former prison guard Hector Bravo back for a second Vlad TV interview. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, Vlad.
Last one was crazy, right?
Appreciate it. Oh, yeah, dude, I got a lot of views, man.
Oh, yeah. Millions of people tuned in.
For sure, dude.
Yep.
People are interested in CDCR and what's going on behind those walls.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically the expert on Vlad TV when it comes to these types of matters. So, what I want to talk about, which we didn't really cover last time, was the Menendez brothers. Now, you were actually guarding them when they were locked up.
Correct.
Okay, what's your experience with them?
Initially, when I got to Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in Donovan, there was only one brother. I'm not sure which brother the brothers was there, but there was only one at the time, Bravo Yard, which was Sensitive Needs Yard. The other brother was in Mule Creek State Prison. And the warden at the time, he wanted to have his name on this to reconnect the brothers. So he brought them down, and then they were reconnected. That's at one point in time, I can't remember the year, after 2015, they were rejoined together.
Okay, and what was your experience with them?
I would just observe them on the yard, right? Because it's not, as a prison guard or a lieutenant, I wasn't necessarily walking up and talking to every inmate or any inmate particularly, but I was just very observant. My experience with them, and I'll be honest, my story hasn't changed, is they're very manipulative and very, egotistical, number one, but that's just from observing. Entitled, sense of entitlement for sure, 100%.
Like how so? Explain.
So let's say, and this is when they eventually got moved to Echo Yard, which is a level 2 non-designated program. There's always like church services or news media showing up to the prison. You have to be on a list of inmates to be able to attend whatever ceremony. If they were not on the list, they would always be right there trying to gain access into an inaccessible area where I would be like, hey, dude, you're not signed up. Leave. Right? So it's always trying to be up in the front, trying to be on the cameras, always trying to talk to the big wigs. When in comparison to other inmates, that's not how other inmates act. They kind of know their place.
Okay, so have you seen their story? I mean, there's a documentary and a movie on Netflix.
I've seen it all.
Okay. Based on your point of view, and of course you were not there, you're not involved, but do you think that they really were abused by their dad and were driven to do this, or do you think that these were just two spoiled rich kids that got sick of their dad, killed him, and took all his money?
The second half. Yeah, man, I didn't wake up yesterday. You know what I mean? I mean, I wasn't born yesterday. I got a lot of experience in life. I got a lot of experience in war, dealing with individuals of all types of mental capacities. And bro, I mean, yeah, dude. I got some hostage negotiator training where you're able to tell if people are lying or detect stuff like that, for sure.
So why do you think they're lying?
I mean, just things that pop out to me are the lavish spending of money. That's a red flag for me. Another red flag would be they're currently in prison and they currently are in possession of that basketball card where they were at the basketball game after their parents were murdered. Even though that's a contraband basketball card, they're in possession of it. Why would they want to remain in possession of it? You know what I mean? Number three, I mean, I can go on and on and on why I have these belief systems. Mm-hmm. A 12 gauge to both your parents is not normal behavior, regardless of being victimized or not. And I say that because if you want to compare, there's plenty of victims that did not take 12 gauges to any of their predators or suspects.
Yeah, I mean, they took shotguns and blew their mother and father's head off.
That's not good. That's evil.
Yeah, and I believe they went back to the car and reloaded and came back again to finish the job. And the one big red flag to me was, like, at one point, one of the brothers confessed to his therapist, and then they both came in and started to confess. And at no point did they mention the abuse.
Facts. But if you look at the totality of the circumstances, by mentioning the abuse, they were able to admit new evidence into their trial to get the whole resentence. And I actually kind of have inside information on all of that retrial.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because they're resentenced to 50 years to life, which technically makes them eligible for parole. 100%. And they've been locked up for 35 years now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me the inside scoop.
Okay, from my perspective and my experience, 2 brothers got LWOP, life without parole. From my experience, anybody who has ever had LWOP can bet 100% that they were going to die in prison. It was life without parole. It wasn't until recently where the lifers, 25 to life, 15 to life, got the opportunity to go home as a result of law changes. So here's my theory, which adds up. Money is very powerful, extremely powerful. If you have celebrities, who do you have? Kim Kardashian, you got Rosie O'Donnell, you got these people, they have money, speaking up on behalf of the brothers. Somebody once told me, Hector, the rich cannot change the laws, but they can hire people that will not enforce the laws. Meaning, the DA of Los Angeles at the time, George Gascon, right? They can't change the law, but they can manipulate the law. And we've been seeing a lot of this. And, this year that we're in is 2025, and the people have finally awoken. I believe that people with money got into people's ears in political powers, maybe governors, maybe judges, maybe DAs, and said, hey, these guys need to get out, right? These guys need to get out at all costs. Which in turn, they introduced the new evidence into the new trial, right? But I got the inside scoop. One of the brothers, Lyle, was weekly and or bi-weekly getting caught with contraband cell phones while incarcerated. I mean, every other day, you're patting them down, you're finding a cell phone, right? People say, oh, well, what's the big deal, Hector? It's just a cell phone. No, not when the media, not when the state, not when the Board of Prison Hearings, BPH, is saying, hey, these guys are rehabilitated, they've helped other inmates, they're great for society. But here's the kicker. Do you know what happened to those write-ups with the cell phones?
Disappeared?
They disappeared.
Wow.
They disappeared. And I know that verbatim the names of the people that made them disappeared. I used to work with these guys. And those guys are not corrupt per se. Those guys are not taking money in the pocket. They're just not the brightest individuals following orders.
Okay, because if they had all those write-ups, that would affect their parole board hearing.
It would look a little different.
Yeah.
If you had 20 write-ups for cell phones, that would look a lot different than what the media is portraying. And that's a fact. And I have documentation to prove that.
Okay. So when is the actual parole board going to hear their case?
When?
Yeah.
I think they had pushed it back. They had pushed it back for like 60 days or August.
So it's coming up.
So how do I think it's going to play out?
Yeah.
I 100% believe that the BPH parole board is going to grant the parole. 100%. Without a doubt in my mind. Without a doubt in my mind. We could even go back to this freaking episode.
Okay. Because there's so much like public outcry and so forth?
No, because it's all corrupt. It's all corrupt. And now, I'm not saying they don't deserve a chance of freedom, but what I'm saying is if you're going to do it right, and do it fairly across the board, because there's lots of inmates with LWOP.
Well, I interviewed Michael Franzese, who was the former Mafia captain. He spent 11 months in jail with Lyle Menendez. And he said they had talks during this time. I guess they were cellmates. And he said that, Lyle told him that his dad abused him and went into details and everything else like that. This was a private conversation. From his point of view, he felt that he was believable. Do you feel that he really was telling inmates or what was happening, or did he come up with a story and he just wants to tell it to people to try to get the story down? Or
my opinion is that the later. That's just my opinion, and I have a very strong sense of reading people, extremely. And let's just say that parents did abuse them. That doesn't give you the right, per the law, to blow people's heads off.
Yeah.
Whether or not they were abused, which I personally don't think they were.
Right.
That does not give you the green light to off somebody.
Right. They were also at an age that they could leave. Weren't they college age at that point? They could have just moved out of the house.
I saw the Netflix documentaries.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's real or not, but
Lyle was 21 and Eric was 18.
Yeah, that's just
they could have moved out of the house.
Correct.
They could have got an apartment. But they could have stayed with friends. They could have gone to college.
And then, in the video, it shows that they slept with the safe, the money, the will. I mean, there's motive behind that. There's definitely motive.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, but I think you're right. I think they're going to get,
100%.
released. I mean, what's the point of having all this build up and then just womp womp?
Recently, they just also passed a law where LWOP, or they introduced a law where they want LWOP to be eligible for parole, life without parole to be eligible. So then you have to wonder and just pay attention. Why are they forcing these laws?
I mean, do you agree with that law or no?
I will agree with any law as long as it's applied fairly and equally across the board.
Anything in this law will be applied fairly or no?
Nothing I have seen is applied fairly in my experience.
So basically, high-profile people with life are going to get out, and those that no one's heard about will probably keep doing life.
More than likely.
Got it. Well, you did a video about this, the Tory Lanez stabbing.
Yes.
Explain to me what happened from your point of view.
From my point of view, he was a CCI Tehachapi, also known. From what we have gathered through our experience is that it was an SNY yard, sensitive needs yard, because had it been a general population yard, it would have erupted in a race riot between black inmates and Mexican inmates. But the fact that it wasn't, the suspect was Mexican, Tory Lanez being Tory Lanez, suffered, I forgot how many stab
14
wounds.
stab wounds.
Yeah, that's not, to be taken lightly. And then got sent out to a hospital, which is normal procedure. People getting stabbed and sent out to the hospital is common practice.
Right, he was airlifted to a hospital that was like 40 miles away or something like that.
They didn't necessarily call it a helicopter because he's a celebrity. I'm assuming the wounds appeared severe.
Yeah, both of his lungs were collapsed.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the video. Like, that guy was trying to kill him.
Yeah.
That was not like a warning stab. That was like,
You saw
I'm trying
the
to
video?
kill you. Yeah, there's a video that was released.
The video of the stabbing?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yep.
That's a very unique position for a stabbing. Usually a stabbing will not happen on the upper tier in the corner section. Usually it'll be in the day room on the yard. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to kill him. He's trying to kill him. But that's normal. That's common, especially these days in 2025. Maybe people have the misconception that if you have money or that if you are somebody or have influence that you're not going to get touched.
So where Tory was at, was that PC?
Correct.
Because the guy that stabbed him was a child molester.
100%.
/ murderer.
That's another reason to confirm that it was a PC yard.
So was it all PC or was it mixed or?
When they mix, they wouldn't look mixed like that. It would be all PC.
Okay, so all the child molesters, all the snitches, and all the celebrities are all right there with each other.
Facts.
Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily intermingling. Usually the child molesters are on their own, playing the guitar in a little circle.
Okay.
The dropout gang members are doing their thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of everybody
they
to each
click
their
up.
own. They click up in there.
Okay. So I had heard some stories about this situation. I don't know if they're true or not. But the story I heard was the guy who did the stabbing, the Mexican guy, had a girlfriend on the outside that he was, calling all the time and so forth. As they were, changing phones, Tory, I guess, felt that the girlfriend was flirting with him. So Tory, not being a guy that's been in prison very long, who doesn't really think out, all the steps of, your actions, went to the guy and said, hey, I just want you to know that your girlfriend's flirting with me. So apparently, the guy talked to the girlfriend and she said, oh, no, that's not what happened. He was flirting with me.
Ooh.
So here's this guy with his, head, running all types of crazy thoughts, wondering who to believe and whatever. Tory's probably thinking, oh, I did this, I'm doing the right thing. I'm looking out for the homie. But the guy went and got a knife and try to kill him. Does this sound about right?
It does not sound abnormal. It sounds very likely.
Okay, so you've seen these types of situations.
You see all kinds of situations. That sounds very likely. And it's kind of one of those things where you can compare it to on the streets. If you see a man beating a woman, which is his girlfriend, and you go to intervene, you can start getting beat up too, which you probably, but at the same time, that woman will probably still go back with that man. You know what I mean? So in prison, people do not need excuses to be violent. People almost wait for excuses or wait for moments. I mean, they're alpha males, they're predators. Not all, but you hear what I'm saying. The environment is built on a predator environment. You start mixing in females, which is, human nature, weapons, ego, mental health issues, drugs. Oh, you get that.
Like, how many of these inmates that are doing life actually have girlfriends on the outside?
A lot.
Really?
A lot, yeah. Matter of fact, that whole Menendez topic we just talked about, I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash. They have a lot of fans, which is unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
It's
okay, so you got this guy doing life in prison who has a girlfriend on the outside.
Yes.
And she's trying to maintain this relationship with this guy. For
Yes.
what reason?
It varies, man. It varies. And then, I've gotten to know some of these people. It varies. Maybe if you're in a high-ranking gang or prison gang organization, in the past, they used to be to benefit the gang. Pass messages, pass between gangs. Companionship. There's females out here in the world that lack companionship, and they find it in there. That's a thing. It does happen.
Right. Yeah, these guys got all the world, all the time in the world to cater to her needs and her emotions,
Let me tell you this, Vlad. Not only do they have girlfriends, but they have numerous girlfriends.
Numerous girlfriends.
Man.
Well, yeah, that's actually how R. Kelly got caught up.
They get caught up often.
He got caught up, and like the main girl that was on his side turned against him because someone in the Department of Corrections released audio to her family showing that he was talking to another girl at the same time, and she flipped and ended up testifying against him.
So in the old days...
And I did an interview with R. Kelly where he explained all this.
You did?
From jail, yeah.
That's all factual.
Yeah.
So in the old days, the prison guards, the correction officers, what they used to do is, it's mandatory that the officers read the inmate's mail as it goes outgoing. Mm-hmm. Well, an inmate will write 3 different women, same exact letter, just change the name. So in the past, you may have had correctional officers put the wrong letter in the wrong envelope.
Oh, on purpose?
On purpose, and shoot it out. That would happen all the time.
So Mary would get a letter that said Judy. And
hey, Judy, you're the love of my life.
Judy would get a Catherine letter, and
Absolutely.
Catherine, God knows what she's getting.
That's a thing.
Wow.
That's a thing.
So this is how prison guards just entertain themselves sometimes.
Yeah, you got to realize it is a messed up environment. And I've come to realize that more since I've been away from there.
I mean, like, I was talking to one of my regular guests, BG Knockout, yesterday, and he was saying how, when you look at prison guards, he's been locked up for 10 years. They all go to prison every day. Now, they get to come home, but, guys that are, doing 20, 30 years, as employees of the Department of Corrections, they're really doing 20 years in prison. They just have the option, well, not the option, but they get the chance to go home at night. But the next day, they're right back in prison again with all the prisoners.
Facts.
So does being a prison guard, is it kind of like being a prisoner in a way?
In a way, but not necessarily. In a way. I've come to realize that prison guards are unique individuals, meaning a lot of us are not all there. You know what I mean? And it possibly takes somebody to not be all there to want to show up at a prison every day and earn a living. It's not conducive of positive behavior. Are you doing time as far as there's gates that lock behind you? Yes. You cannot open that gate. You have to wait till the tower opens that gate. Your partner. Can you leave? You can't leave. You'll be AWOL. You'll get in trouble. You'll possibly get fired. You'll get reprimanded. You cannot utilize personal cellular telephones. I believe now they can, but you cannot. You cannot chew tobacco. There's rules. The same rules that apply to the inmates apply to the guards.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy because I had an internship when I was in college at Intel in Folsom. So in that town was Intel and the Folsom Prison. Those are the 2 biggest companies. So everyone I met either worked for Intel, worked for the prison.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was interesting sort of seeing it, It seems like a lot of times people just take those jobs because they're local and they're available.
I think people take those jobs because it's such a high-paying job for such minimum requirements.
Oh, okay.
High school diploma.
That's it.
That's it. Make $150,000, $200,000 a year.
You make $150,000 to $200,000. After how many years, though?
Well, my last year I made $157,000.
That was how many years of employment?
After 16 years of employment.
A lot of years, though.
And I wasn't even cranking out the overtime like these other guys. That was all through involuntary overtime, meaning I got forced to stay extra shifts.
What was the most you've seen a prison guard make?
A lot. A lot. Upwards to the late 200s, close to the 300s.
Like 275.
Around approximately 260.
Wow.
But you got to understand, they're living at the prison. They're living at the prison.
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing tons of overtime.
They look all shot out, man. They're huffing and puffing as they're walking to their car. Literally, I've seen old, big COs stop halfway, breathe, catch their breath, and then continue to walk the rest of the, not even that far away.
Yeah. So, the guy that stabbed up Tory, what do you think will happen to him?
Oh, nothing. Nothing.
Really?
When I say nothing, I mean, I'm comparing it to the past. In the past, he would get charged with attempted murder. He would go to the hole, I'd say, I don't know, 13 months, 12 months, shoot term. I guarantee you, I don't even know for a fact, I guarantee you that inmate that stabbed Tory Lanez, wherever he may be right now, I guarantee you he's back on a regular yard.
Really?
Well, 100%. That's just the climate of the department right now.
Okay, and if you're doing life anyways, who cares?
That's nothing.
Yeah.
But let me tell you this, Vlad. There's guys that will be getting out in a week and will still commit massive acts of violence.
You've seen that?
100. Oh, my goodness. I've seen that over and over and over again.
You're getting out in a week, and you basically add 10 years to
Correct.
your term.
Facts.
Huh. On purpose, or they're being sent out to do this?
It varies. It varies. One motivating factor could be if you're homeless and you don't have a home to go to. It's much easier to punch a correction officer in the mouth as he's about to let you go back home to nowhere. And guess what? Now you have food.
Yeah. I mean, how many people, and I've had a discussion about this, like how many people go back to prison because they simply don't have the structure to function on the outside?
Well, you got to remember Prop 57, AB 109, all the laws changed. So it's not like before where people used to leave prison, reoffend, and go back. They changed the laws, so now you're seeing them as homeless people, drug-addicted people on the streets. It varies though, man, because what are the options of you getting out? You can go back to your life of crime, or you can get the help. I've seen both.
Yeah. So, with Tory Lanez, clearly they're going to separate these two.
Clearly, it will be documented enemies. There's a form 812. It's called a 812, enemy concerns, and it'll be documented that those two individuals can no longer be housed ever on the same facility.
Okay. So, will Tory be put in a more safe PC yard or same type of thing?
Could possibly be put on a worse yard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You don't get incentives for being victims. you don't get incentives for being, well, you do get incentive for being suspects. It's a weird thing.
You have no incentives of being a victim.
Absolutely not.
They'll just throw you somewhere else, and that's the end of that. Out in New Orleans, 10 inmates broke out, and 2 are still at large, Antoine Massey and Derek Groves. It's funny because I put out a tweet that went really viral, I think like 15 million views, where I offered to interview one of these guys. And I'm like, look, you guys are going to go to prison anyways. Do a Vlad TV interview, you'll be a legend going back in. Bunch of people called me, by the way. I had like 50 different emails and texts and stuff like that. I don't know if they were actually real or not. I felt like it was a little shysty because, I don't know, people were asking for money. And I'm like, well, if I pay for the interview, am I technically paying the escaped inmate and I can get charged? Because one of the grandmothers of one of the escaped inmates, I think, sent him like $5,000 and got arrested.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's aiding and abetting.
Basically. Yeah. So I don't want to do that. So, and I didn't even know if it was real or if other people were trying to hustle me. Have you seen escaped inmates during your time?
Yes.
How many times?
Not that many times. Usually they were called walkaways where they, oh man, San Diego had a huge one. He was a level 4 inmate on a level 3 yard. He was out at the hospital. This was during COVID where we were giving him the mask, the inmate, the mask, but the mask had the metal part over the bridge of the nose. To form it, He utilized that out at the hospital, Alvarado Hospital, on the 4th floor or the 5th floor. And it was a TB room, so no correctional officer could be inside due to precautions, health precautions. They had a little monitor, black and white, grainy monitor. They said they couldn't see, because I knew both of the officers that were on duty. The inmate utilized the nose piece and picked his handcuffs, picked his leg restraints, and went out the window.
Wow.
Went out the window on the 4th story or the 5th story of Alvarado Hospital.
How did he climb down?
So So the CO looks and says, "Oh my God, he's gone." Right, the inmate's gone. So he kind of pokes his head out the window, doesn't see him. Of course, you got to call 911. You got to call the prison. They activated the crisis response team, which is a SWAT team for the prison. Luckily, a week prior, I had gotten kicked off the team, so I didn't have nothing to do with the shenanigans. They go, they search. You had San Diego PD. And they end up locating this suspect on the roof underneath the AC. Here's the kicker.
Oh, so he climbed up instead of down.
He climbed out into the roof. He climbed out. So it was a hospital window, and when you open the window, you're onto the roof.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then you got the AC units, and it wasn't a window straight down. It was out to a rooftop.
Okay, but he still could have climbed down from the roof, though.
He probably could have jumped. He would have broke his legs. So, that's 3 feet, 3 stories.
Yeah.
He would have broke something. But he decided to just hide underneath an AC unit. But the kicker is, and this is kind of funny, is that there was 2 negligent discharges from the M4 rifle. This is on YouTube, man, where they negligently shot 2 rounds into the ground. That's all captured on body-worn camera. Yeah, you're supposed to keep your finger off the trigger. That's safety.
While looking for him, basically?
Correct.
Okay.
While escorting him.
Oh.
While holding him, so they shoot right by his feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
What usually happens when you get caught after an escape?
You go back. What's supposed to happen is you're supposed to go back to the prison, a prison.
Mm-hmm.
Preferably not the prison you came from, because you already know how to escape from that one. And then you get put in the administrative segregation unit, the hole. You get charged with escape. It goes in your file. And from here on out, it is in the best interest of staff to send extra officers every time that inmate is transported elsewhere, or a sergeant.
Okay.
And a sergeant.
So basically ensuring that he's not going to be able to escape again.
Correct.
Okay. Do you think they'll find these last 2 guys?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, if you look at the majority of the escapes, and since the last time I spoke with you here, California had a major escape. Inmate named Cesar Hernandez. He was a level 4 GP 180 inmate, which is the most secured inmate. He fled to Tijuana. He outran the cops. He outran the COs. He fled to Tijuana, where he murdered a female police officer by the name of Abigail Reyes or something like that. And he was apprehended in Mexico. So now Mexico has possession of him and will not release him until he serves his time for the murder of a peace officer over there.
Well, I mean, you've had situations, for example, Whitey Bulger
Yeah.
and Jeffrey Epstein, who died in prison.
Yeah.
2 very different situations. Well, for example, Jeffrey Epstein, there was a lot of conspiracy over whether he was killed because he was about to expose a bunch of billionaires and so forth. The new head of the FBI said he went through all the tapes. I guess there are tapes of the situation, said that he killed himself.
Okay.
Do people ever hang themselves and it becomes a little bit gray area as to whether they were killed or actually took their own life?
No, usually the hangings and the suicides are you could tell that they hung themselves. And some of the ones I've come across are, they can hang themselves from the light fixture inside of the cell. What they use is their bed sheets. They'll cut the bed sheets, they'll make a nice little noose out of it, and they'll hang themselves. One of the gnarliest ones I've seen is the inmate got on his knees. He was an Asian guy. Actually on the same yard that Suge Knight is currently on right now. A-yard, Donovan. And he got on his knees, put the thing on the bunk, and just leaned forward. He leaned forward and he killed himself. His knees were on the ground, he had a noose on his neck, and he leaned forward and killed himself. And he died like that, in the kneeling position.
BG Knockout said that he saw this one inmate who made a noose and put it in the toilet and just kept flushing it and then just kept tightening it until it finally strangled him. I don't quite understand it, but it was really nasty the way he made it sound.
I think maybe the only way that would work is if you jam the toilet.
Yeah,
so
that's what I
nothing
think.
can come back
Yeah.
up. That's pretty gross.
Yeah.
You could probably drown yourself and simultaneously choke yourself at the same time.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
There's another one where the guy did a swan dive from the top bunk, head first into the toilet. I don't think it killed him, but it messed him up extremely bad. But I think it broke his neck.
Well, the Whitey Bulger situation, he was like almost 90 years old, and they put him in I guess, like a transportation area where they're supposed to ship off different members, and there was another Mafia guy in there that basically beat him to death. I mean, to the point where, like, his eyes were gouged out, his tongue was almost cut out. Like, they didn't even, like, realize who it was. It took them a while to even figure out, like, he was that messed up. You think that was done on purpose, or do you think that it was an accident?
Purpose. But going back to your question where you asked me, are there ever suicides that appear to be a gray area where it'd be something else? Not suicides, but overdoses. Overdoses, there's gray areas.
Huh.
There's certain gangs, such as the Mexican Mafia, other gangs, that will distribute what's called a hot shot, which is a lethal dose of heroin. And they'll get their victim extremely high and continue to get them high until they die. So that's an overdose, but not a suicide.
Okay, but the Whitey Bulger situation, you think that someone there allowed that to happen so he would die?
I believe it was a mixture of current policy, current procedure, and the correctional officers were acting on. I don't think they purposely did it as far as maybe they got paid to do it. I think the circumstances of the prison created that opportunity.
What do you mean?
I mean, we're mixing them here in California. We're mixing inmates that should not be mixed. Earlier, I told you that Tory Lanez has a enemy concern with the suspect that stabbed him and that they should never be housed in the same facility. Well, I know for a fact that at the prison I worked at, they housed two known enemies on the same yard and one murdered the other one, gruesomely, on video. So I'm not saying that there's mistakes being made, but there's mistakes being made at the request of higher ups.
Really?
Yes, 100%.
You mean the warden?
Warden, higher than the warden, associate directors. I don't know the chain of command in those prisons, but 100%. I've seen all this with my own eyes, and I have documentation.
Okay. You know, and like BG, for example, said that he's personally seen situations where prison guards will let two guys fight, sometimes of different races, and then the guy who wins, then they'll shoot the guy from the tower. And he feels like these are done on purpose.
I have let guys fight on purpose, right? But nobody was getting shot afterwards. They would usually come up to me and say, hey, can we handle something real quick? Yeah, handle it. Fucking make it quick. They'll go off to the side of the bunk beds. They'll fight. They're taking too long. I'm like, hey, knock it off. That's enough. And then they stop, right? But there's no, I was ever involved. We weren't inserting ourselves. Sometimes things, in some prisons, things gotta happen. If an inmate violates a rule, if a male inmate masturbates to a female correctional officer, that inmate's gonna have to answer to somebody. And this isn't the past practice. Now it's a free-for-all. Now it's chaos. Now the inmates don't even go to the ADSEG for masturbating with exposure, when before they used to go to the hole.
Well, you allowing two inmates to fight directly violates your job.
Correct. Well, now that you put it that way.
Right?
Yes.
In fact, that's a fireable,
Nah,
situation.
it's not fireable.
Really?
But it's not fireable, and they can't prove that I let them fight.
But let's just say it was proven. Let's just say on tape they have you, and you're saying...
I would never put myself in a position that I was going to get got.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, hypothetically, they have a video of you saying, go ahead and fight, just make it quick.
You're going to get in trouble. You're 100%.
Are you getting fired?
Not fired.
Really?
Yeah, if you tell the truth, you're not going to get fired. If you tell the truth, you're not going to get fired. Because there's a disciplinary matrix on things you will get fired for. Dishonesty is one of those.
Okay.
Now, if you admit, hey, I let these guys fight. Well, why did you do that? I don't know, man. I thought it was going to solve the problems in the building. okay, well, you violated this rule. And that rule can be you're going to get 10% of your pay taken for 2 years. That's where the rules lie.
I mean, that's a serious situation right there.
It gets worse. Yeah, does it happen? Yes.
But not that often.
Nowadays, it's a different time, but it does happen.
Well, Suge Knight, he's locked up San Diego?
San Diego.
Okay. Did you see a picture of him recently?
No, not recently.
Let me show you.
I have an older picture of him.
This is what he looks like now, before and after.
The after is on the right?
Yeah.
It looks like he lost some weight.
A lot of weight. Yeah, I mean, people are questioning to see if he's sick.
Nah, this is like common prison life, man. You're eating nothing. You're doing nothing. Walking around the yard. I mean, I don't expect him to get any bigger in prison.
But he's been big the whole time.
Correct.
Suddenly he's small.
It's a possibility he can get sick. Sickness is big in prison, man. I've seen all kinds. Cirrhosis of the liver, hepatitis C. I mean, I'm not saying he has any of that, but what I'm saying is people definitely get sick in prison.
Okay. What do you know about Suge Knight's situation in prison?
The dude's good. He's good. Doesn't stir up. I've interacted with him. I've worked on the facility with him. I've conversed with him. Not in-depth conversation, but he's very respectful. He's well aware of his surroundings. And he knows how to maneuver in prison.
Okay. Nobody tries to mess with him?
No.
So is he in a PC yard or no?
Yes.
Okay.
I think last time I didn't want to answer that, but like, I think now, because California's so crazy that they've mixed everybody and turned everything upside down, I think it's okay to say that. Nothing really matters anymore.
Well, it makes sense, right? I mean, he's very high profile.
Yeah.
If you put him in general population, God knows, like,
yeah,
some Tupac fan or some Biggie fan who thinks he somehow has
Right.
something to do with it.
And respectfully, you know, if there's levels to PC yards, some more wilder than others, he's on a more tamer one, meaning like there ain't much weird stuff going on in that yard.
Well, he's older now.
Yeah.
He's in his late 50s.
He's always been respectful, man. He's always been straight shooter.
Right. I mean, he claimed he was blind.
I don't know about that. He saw me just fine.
Well, in court, I think he came in with a cane or trying to...
He did have a cane.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
I wanted to ask him about Snoop Dogg buying out Death Row, but I didn't get that opportunity.
Well, I guess there was a lawsuit by Terry Carter's widow. That's the guy that he ran over during the whole incident. And I guess it ultimately got settled and probably not a lot of money changed hands. And his widow said, I'm not happy with the outcome of it all, but I don't want to give him another opportunity to put on a clown show and act like a bitch. Maybe somebody will shank him in jail.
Nah, not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And you want to talk about why would Tory Lanez get stabbed and not Suge Knight? Tory Lanez is not on the level of Suge Knight.
Explain.
I mean, if you hear the stories, I mean, Suge Knight has that reputation. He has that reputation, you know, of allegedly hanging, who was it, Vanilla Ice off the balcony.
Which didn't exactly happen, but...
It did or didn't?
I interviewed Vanilla Ice about it. Yeah, I mean, he had a talk with him on the balcony, but he didn't actually hang him on the balcony.
Regardless.
What he did, though, was, you know, Vanilla Ice came back to his hotel room with 2 bodyguards, and Suge and a bunch of his guys were already in his room. And I think, like, Suge ended up taking one of the bodyguards' gun and smacking him. So, you know, I mean, there is some stuff in there.
Eazy-E.
Yeah.
So... I know, and now that we're on the subject, reputation is huge, and reputation is huge in prison. And reputation and how you conduct yourself will make you more of a survivor.
You know, I had a comedian on here, Ali Sadiq, from Houston. He did like 10 years in the feds. And he talked about a situation where one of the guards that didn't like him made him strip search, like, in front of everybody. And that to him was like the thing he hated the most. Like, he just did not want that situation to happen. And when it happened, he basically made plans to kill the prison guard. And it got to the point where he was getting ready to stab him, and then a bunch of his guys, like, took him aside and said, listen, don't do this. And then the prison guard kind of caught wind, he transferred out, and that was the end of that. But, the way he described, he had stabbed other people. He talked about a whole stabbing incident where a guy made a gay joke and he stabbed him in the shower. So he seemed like he was dead serious about this. How often have you seen inmates attack prison guards with a knife?
Often, Vlad. Often.
You actually saw it?
In a 16-year career, yes.
How many times have you seen this personally?
Once directly involved, right? Other than that, responding. So you got blood on the ground, you got stabbed people, and you got down inmates. But I don't know if I shared it the last time. Not only was the inmate stabbing the officer, the inmate tied the knife to his hand using bed sheets.
Yeah, you talked about
so he
this,
couldn't drop it. They do not need a reason to stab an officer. They do not care about the repercussions. As a matter of fact, the one I was involved in, he told us, "Oh yeah, I wanted the cops to shoot us. I wanted the control booth to shoot me and kill me." So some people just might be suicidal and want suicide by cop.
I mean, he wasn't suicidal.
I can totally understand that dude's. Yeah. I can totally understand him wanting to stab and kill a correctional officer for making him strip out, or for him perceiving that he was being belittled, because in prison, inmates don't have much. What they do have is their dignity, their honor, and their word. If you violate any of those, then that's all they got.
I mean, do you see prison guards doing that type of stuff? Like, listen, I just don't like this guy. I'm going to embarrass him in front of everybody.
Utilizing other techniques, yes. Yes. Making an example, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But when you said he made him strip out in front of everybody, conduct an unclothed body search, we have done that in emergency situations. Everybody strip out right now. But
yeah.
I guess what you're saying
he
is
just pointed him out by himself.
Yeah, that's not good, man. That's common sense. You don't want to do that. That's all bad.
All right, so that prison guard knew what he was doing.
100%.
I had interviewed Ali Zoe Adam. He was one of the founders of the Zoe Pound from Miami. And he talked about a situation. He got into a prison fight and he threw hot oil on the prisoner during the fight. Have you seen this type of thing?
It is nasty. Not only do they throw hot oil, but they get hot pots, which is basically, a water boiler, a kettle, electric, and they will mix water with baby oil, so it's nasty, and then they'll throw it on somebody. I've seen that numerous times where the victim will come in and he's discolored because of the skin came off all on his face, and that looks extremely painful, not to mention the blisters after. To me, that's attempted murder.
Yeah? What happens to people that do that? Is that an attempted murder charge? Or
yeah, it's attempted murder, because they usually follow up with hitting them over the head with the hot pot, creating a weapon, and or pulling out a knife and stabbing them. It's just all it. And then the officers come and pepper spray. So imagine being hot boiled water with oil, stabbed, and then pepper sprayed. That's a bad combination. And
that's the worst day of your life, pretty much.
It happens often.
Happens often.
When I say often, I mean it's not abnormal.
I mean, when you look at people who are locked up, how many of those are mentally disabled to a certain degree? Not fully retarded, but like people that are in special ed classes, can't read, can't write. For example, R. Kelly can't read and write. Right? I mean, he's a musical genius. I get it. But he's probably borderline retarded. You know what I'm saying? He's just probably autistic. And just is so good musically that has overcome all of his other deficiencies. But now he's in prison and he can't read and write. How many people in prison do you think are like that?
Uneducated or like mental illness?
I mean, when I say mental illness, I mean like learning deficiencies.
Developmental disability is what we call it. We call it developmental
There
disability. Usually as a result, how many? I don't know, if you have 100%, probably 30%.
That's a lot.
I mean, yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, look, I interviewed this guy, Lil Woody. He was one of the, essentially the star witness in the Young Thug YSL RICO case. And I remember talking to him, and I didn't know his whole story, but he talked about how when he was a kid, he like fell down the stairs and went into a coma, woke up like 6 months later, had to learn to walk and talk and so forth. And then by that time, he was put in special ed classes. And then, I think he dropped out of school. And then, now you got this guy who has no education, who has a learning disability. You give him some guns, you give him some drugs, you give him some jewelry, some liquor. And next thing you know, he's out shooting everybody and so forth. So does this happen a lot, this kind of situation?
Not 30%, 20%, 30%, but
That's
I will tell you a file that I read of an inmate that I came across who was developmental disabled. He was an Asian youngster, probably 22, 23 years old, on an SNY yard, level 4 EOP, Donovan. I read his file. What is this guy in prison for? He was walking down the street in a neighborhood. There was a mute or deaf person sitting in a wheelchair on their driveway, just hanging out casually. That suspect pushed the victim over, I believe it was a male, and raped the victim in the wheelchair on the driveway where the person couldn't even yell for help, and then took off running. That's why that developmental disabled inmate was in prison for. So do I feel sorry or bad for him because they're, you use the word retarded or slow? Oh, I don't know, man. That doesn't fly in my book to do that.
Yeah, I heard a term called JCAT.
Well, JCAT would be mentally disabled.
Right. On medication.
Now, that is about 50 to 60%.
50 to 60% of inmates are JCATs.
I want you to look at downtown Skid Row and downtown San Diego, which we are seeing out here in the streets is happening in prison. Maybe 50%. A high 45%.
Wow.
If you're asking me how many more solid gangsters are there, far and few between, man. They're the last of a dying breed.
Okay, so what percentage of inmates are totally lucid, intelligent people that if you put them back out in the world, if they change their ways, they can make a good living for themselves and go on and live a fruitful life?
I don't think intelligence has anything to do with it. I think it has to do with willingness to change. Willingness to change. Have you had enough?
Right, but some people, look, if you are mentally disabled,
yeah,
you're not going to make it on the outside.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
You don't really have a chance.
Correct.
Now, if you were raised in a crime environment, this is all you know, and, you could change. You could be exposed to new experiences, new people, realize there's a better way to do it. Hey, listen, it's better to have a job at McDonald's than to go back to prison.
If 60% of the inmates actually got their shit together, they would be able to thrive out here in society.
But the other 40%,
that's a wrap.
No chance.
Fuck no.
So they're basically where they're supposed to be.
And there's some fucking evil monsters, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Donald Trump has pardoned a lot of people. Most recently, NBA YoungBoy and Larry Hoover.
Yes.
Are you surprised?
Surprise. Nothing surprises me anymore, Vlad.
Well, with Larry Hoover, he got his Fed case pardoned,
yeah,
but he still has 400 years in the state.
I didn't know that he had that 400 years in the state. Yeah. I didn't know that.
So basically, the governor has to pardon him
right.
in order to get out of the state. Does that ever happen? Like getting pardoned on a federal level and then on a state level?
Similar stuff can happen. It can be, you may get your case dismissed in the state, but picked up on a federal level. So reverse. I've seen it reverse, not necessarily the other way around.
I mean, when you look at a Larry Hoover, let's see how old he is. 74 years old.
It's pretty old.
He's been locked up for like 50 years.
Yeah.
He's in a supermax. So he's really under the worst conditions, pretty much. Do you feel like someone like a Larry Hoover is really a threat to society at this point? He's
no.
Leader of the, he was the leader of the Gangster Disciples, but that was many decades ago.
No, I don't even think the Menendez brothers would be a threat to society.
So you think letting him out is no problem whatsoever?
Who? Larry Hoover?
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to go on a hunch, there's a lot of OGs, and I consider maybe him an OG, that once they're out, they're done. They're tired of the BS. They'll conform to society.
I mean, do you ever see really old guys coming out and then committing crimes again and going back in?
Rarely.
Okay. So when you get out older...
Rarely these days.
Yeah. I remember I interviewed Chi Ali. He went to prison for murdering somebody. He got into argument with his baby mother's brother, and they started yelling at each other, and insulting each other, and he pulled out a gun and killed them, and then went on the run, did like 20 years, came out. And he said that, like, when you look at people coming back, these guys that are doing 20, 30 years, they come out, all their friends are in jail, dead, or not hanging out anymore, where they used to be hanging out, moved away to other places. They don't really go back to their old ways. They're really trying to just settle down. Even the guys who commit murders and so forth, once they get out, they pretty much calm down and live out the rest of their lives. Is that what you mostly see?
So you remember the movie Shawshank Redemption? Everything kind of seemed like long-winded. Like, hey, you're a convict. You're doing long stretches of time. There's not that many people left doing long stretches of time. A lot of people have gotten released. You do have your people that are still doing long stretches of time, 30 years, 20 years. But it almost seems like the system has sped up. So it's chewing people in, spitting them out. And you know what I mean? As opposed to long-term prison.
Do you think that's good or bad?
Fuck, dude. I believe the United States needs to stop going on both sides of the spectrum and meet right in the middle. When we've talked about the three-strike laws, it's excessive when you put a guy away for life for holding up a liquor store or a stick of bubble gum. That's excessive. 3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah.
LWOP, I think everything has a part as long as it's distributed equally and fairly.
Well, R. Kelly is trying to get a pardon from Trump. He's claiming that prison guards are trying to kill him. I guess he just overdosed recently. I don't know whether that was a prescription or from illegal drugs. Do you know about this case?
He said, or it said, that the officers gave him a lethal dose of medication or something like that.
Do you believe that?
Well, you got to understand something, lad. What an inmate says might not necessarily be the truth.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine that.
For the record, right?
For the record.
I mean, if you ask every inmate, then all the COs are trying to kill him or get him killed.
Yeah.
Is that necessarily true? Maybe not to that. Not every freaking CO is trying to get every inmate killed. People are either looking for paydays, pardons. So, overdoses in prison, man, dude, that's a epidemic. That's an epidemic that the Americans have no idea about. An inmate can overdose up to like 4 times. I've seen the same inmate overdose. They can die, and we bring them back to life with Narcan and the EKG. Or the defibrillator, the AED.
I mean, do you think that a CO would risk
No.
trying to kill someone as high profile as R. Kelly?
Absolutely
I mean,
not.
When you look at the most famous inmates right now, R. Kelly is probably top 5, maybe? I mean, in the country?
I was just about to say that every time an inmate has been killed by an officer, it was a result of an incident, an altercation. But then, there was that video footage in New York where the inmate was beat to death and the COs got federally indicted. You're asking my personal humble opinion. I don't believe the correctional officers are trying to kill R. Kelly. From my experience and hunch.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
I don't think so either.
No, I don't even think a means of overdose would not be a means either. The correctional officers don't even have access to medication. There's a whole nurse, there's a whole clinic, there's a whole pill distributor.
Yeah, I mean, look, R. Kelly wants to get out of prison. I get it. Tory Lanez wants to get out of prison. That's why they put out all this new evidence, which Megan's lawyer said was all part of the trial anyways. There's nothing new here. But I can imagine, wow, I did not sign up for this. I thought I'd have a leisurely PC prison experience where everyone was my fan. And
absolutely not.
Now I'm getting stabbed 14 times over trying to be a helpful friend or whatever you want to call it. And just do whatever it takes to get me out of here. The prison guard's trying to kill me. I need Trump to help me out. Tory Lanez the state case, so Trump can't help him. But I guess with R. Kelly, if it's a federal case, I don't know. I mean, clearly he's a big celebrity and he's a huge artist, but I think
it varies though. Maybe he's the wrong type of celebrity. I think it varies who you are. maybe what, I don't want to bring race into this, but who you are, what race, what your crime was committed.
Well, yeah, it was over underage girls. So regardless of who you are, there's going to be certain people in there that are like, man, fuck you.
Correct.
Like, you're a child molester.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Child molesters get zero love in prison.
Really?
Fucking ain't
R.
nobody.
Kelly seems to get some love in prison.
By who? I'm talking about California. I don't know about over there. I don't know who would look out for him. And that would be very unusual to me.
So even if it's R. Kelly, you can't protect him because he's a child molester. R. Kelly.
But in there, he's just another inmate.
I mean, there's probably people in there that were born because of R. Kelly's music.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts. But, that's
I would not exist instead of R. Kelly. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of situation.
I think that's a misconception of celebrities or stars. They probably think when they get to prison, they're going to have that status. That's not necessarily the case. I mean, you got Sirhan, who's been a victim of attempted murder.
That's the guy who shot Bobby Kennedy?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, they tried to kill him?
They stabbed him, sliced him.
Hey, Bobby Kennedy was loved. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was supposed to be the next president, allegedly. Like, if he had survived, I interviewed his son.
I'm starting to realize that high notoriety inmates, and I kind of already knew this, have a target on their back.
Swifty Blue, a rapper from out here in L.A., recently it was announced that 19 people were charged in an alleged Mexican Mafia conspiracy to kill him. You made a video about this.
Yeah, I'm shocked that you brought that up right now. I absolutely did make a video on that yesterday.
What's your take on this?
That's a very sensitive subject. That's a very serious subject. It really is. It really is.
Okay, so what's Swifty Blue's alliance? Is he Mexican Mafia or is it something else?
No. So if we want to talk about the Mexican Mafia, that is a few individuals, maybe in the hundreds, 200s, at the highest level of that prison or gang organization.
Okay, so that's different from just being a Sereno.
Way more different.
Okay, I just thought that was all encompassed. I thought the Mexican Mafia essentially became Serenos and over time. Man. That's not a thing?
I'll break it down. Let's go top down.
Okay.
Mexican Mafia. Associate, also known as a camarada. Down Sureño, and then what they call Southsiders. Then you got Swifty Blue down here in this area.
Okay.
But you understand everybody answers to the top.
So the Mexican Mafia is the boss of all this.
100%.
So every Sereno has to answer to the Mexican Mafia. Every Southsider, Mexican Mafia, and so forth. So what this means is that someone at the very top put out a hit on him?
That's what they're alleging in the LA Times article, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what it says.
The people that are charged with this, are they already in prison?
It said, it named 10 people, or 19. Half of them were in prison, the other half were not, which is not uncommon. So let me show you how crime works in prison. You'll have the guys inside a prison on prison yards, let's say a general population, active. They have cell phones, contraband. They are in communication with gang members on the streets. They tell them what they want to happen, when they want it to happen. So guess what? Now you're conspiring. Now you are working hand to hand. So that's why you'll see in these indictments, individuals that are incarcerated getting rolled up in these RICOs as well as people on the streets. They're working in cohesion through means of communication.
Well, what was the alleged hit over?
Now that was not articulated in the article, but I could kind of guess, but that's not one of the things I want to be guessing on, especially if it's not true.
Okay.
I do know that if you're generating revenue and you are a member of that organization, you are expected to pay Uncle Sam, per se.
Kick up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that might be it? He wasn't kicking up money?
I don't know that for a fact, but that would be a possibility. That would be a reason.
Well, why would 19 people conspire to do a murder? I've always felt like if I'm going to kill somebody, I'm going to have to just do it myself. Because if I tell anybody, if I get anyone involved, now they got a get out of jail free card to put me, in prison for life. So it doesn't make any sense to me.
One thing I'm known for is being honest and transparent and real. So just imagine you got 5 dudes in prison, but you got 10 guys out on the streets. it can be is like, hey, Vlad, come take a drive with me, man. I'm going to go to 7-Eleven and I got to make this phone call. Just because you were in the car with me, guess what? Now you're part of this conspiracy. And you're ordering, certain things to be done. Hey, can I borrow your car? Yeah, you can borrow my car. It's not necessarily that they all 19 were plotting. It can just be, what it can be is law enforcement getting as much fish in the barrel for people could speak and start telling.
So they got 19 people arrested, hoping that a few of them will start to turn on the others because they didn't do nothing. I just let them borrow my car.
Right.
I don't know nothing about this murder. I mean, he mentioned it afterwards, but I didn't know that was...
And
next
those are
thing you know,
examples.
you're cooperating and
those are examples.
Yeah,
that's kind of what that looks like. Why so many people get jammed up.
I mean, do you think that the Swifty Blue is safe at this point now that this happened, or does this make him more of a target?
And I love to do wishful thinking, and I wish the best for everyone, to include Swifty Blue. But in my humble opinion, I believe by LA Times putting that out, and by even me thinking, why did I do that video? I believe that the more exposure it gets, it's almost like you're forcing a hand. You're forcing your what do they say? You're making it come to fruition. That one.
But aren't you also bringing so much attention to it that if it gets done, it'll be obvious who did it?
It's already obvious where it's going to come from. People don't get touched for no reason.
Huh.
Or on that caliber.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I've never heard of a rapper having a hit put out on him by a major gang. I've heard groups, you hear about the King Von situation, but that's just like little groups of people. I've never heard of an official, there's a hit by the Crips or the Bloods or the Mexican Mafia. Like, that sounds crazy.
And maybe, because I did do that video yesterday, and I kind of not did it on a whim, but it's like, hey, he was attacked in LA County Jail. Maybe that might have been a checking. Maybe it might have very damn well been a checking. Like, hey, here's a warning. Next time will not be a warning. That's what possibly that could have been.
Yeah, man, I hope he's okay.
Correct.
He's been on No Jumper a few times. It's my friend Adam's podcast. So, yeah, I don't want to see anything happen over just being a rapper at the end of the day. Like,
right.
It's crazy enough just doing that without.
But it's a fine line, man, when you start when you start saying certain words or organizations on your rap music, you just now blended the lines.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I interviewed Lefty Gunplay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you have.
Yeah. And, listen, he's like the one LA rapper who's like going to just diss, everyone from the North.
Right.
And, he stands on that. And he's gotten a lot of, popularity because of it, but also like he can't go to San Francisco to do a show and so forth. You had commented about Lefty also, right?
I am very familiar with these rap artists.
Yeah, I mean, look, I interviewed Lefty right before he showed up on Kendrick's album.
Okay.
So,
he
suddenly went from a popular LA rapper to, okay, he's actually known worldwide now. But, yeah, I mean, he was involved in a whole bunch of stuff, and, he has a whole bunch of beef with both, Northern California rappers as well as other LA rappers and so forth. I mean, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting. Like, if someone like him got locked up, what do you think would happen?
He just got done from being locked up. But if he went back...
but he wasn't popular before, or was he?
I mean, he was still the same individual. If he went back, he would be fine, I think. I mean, if he survived the first time, I'm pretty sure he knows how to navigate the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I hope he does well. But
let's hope he doesn't go back. I mean, for nobody to go back.
Yeah, I mean, you see all these situations where he's getting arrested before shows.
So, I'll be honest with you, man, and we are on Vlad TV, dude. I myself have 14 years of sobriety. I've not touched alcohol in 14 years.
Congrats.
Why? Because I know that leads me to trouble. I see a lot of these individuals, a lot of these artists, and I'm like, man, if they would just stop.
Yeah, no, he was drinking during the interview.
He was?
Yeah, every maybe 15 minutes, he'd walk over, grab the liquor, take a big swig.
I mean?
Yeah, he was really late. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we're used to stuff like this, but yeah. I mean, look, I'm not going to say who it is because we didn't do the interview, but we had this one artist that came in and they were just so high out of their mind. And they're like slurring their words and like trying to stay awake. And then Then they start getting covered in sweat.
Oh, man.
And like, you know, his girlfriend's giving him like a towel and he's wiping the towel and the whole towel is drenched.
Yeah.
And, you know, he goes to the bathroom. The girlfriend comes out. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's fine. I got it. You know, like, and this is someone who got out of jail recently.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, I've had people that were high that pushed through interviews. I mean, at one point, even like Jay the Youngin, he threw up in the middle of the interview.
No
and came
way.
Back. Yeah. He said, "Oh, I'm high off perks." Like he literally said it. But I've never had anyone be so high that they couldn't even finish the interview.
Yeah,
This is a first for us, and I'm not going to say who it is. But, you know, people in the comments can figure it out, maybe or not. I'm not going to say who it is.
All kinds of people guessing.
You know, but yeah, man, the drug use is crazy. Like,
It's self-medication.
I mean, in prison, what percentage of the inmates are getting high?
80.
80%. I thought you
80.
were going to say like maybe 20.
No, 80.
80%.
Yes. I want to say heroin, but heroin kind of got phased out with fentanyl. Fentanyl, meth, spice, basalt, Suboxone, what is that, wax or whatnot?
Cocaine?
Cocaine, it's mostly the hard drugs because they're not going to mess around. You know what I mean? They're going to get straight to the point.
Cocaine is not a hard drug?
Why do cocaine when you could do meth? You know what I mean? It's like...
Okay. I never thought about it that way, but all right.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be paying or risking getting caught or smuggling, they're going to go all the way.
Okay. So what percentage are actually addicts, you think?
Oh, shit. Now, that's a different story or a different question. I would say 40 to 50, maybe 40, 50.
Wow, so almost half the people are addicted in prison.
Yeah, dude. It's serious. It's fucking serious.
So the drug trade is that established in every prison. Are there any prisons where you just can't get drugs at all?
The drug trade is not a problem in the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
Are there any prisons where there's no drugs at all?
I don't believe it.
Really?
Even during COVID, when it was completely locked down, they were still getting overdosing.
Are they using drones now?
Drones.
Bring 'em in? Is that the main thing now?
That might not be the main thing, but the way that drugs come in is through visitors, through visiting, corrupt staff members, drones, and the mailroom through mail. But the drones, in the middle of the night, somebody will park and fly the drone and drop a football filled with cell phones, tobacco, chargers, lighters, dope in the middle of the yard. In the morning, an inmate will go out, pick up the football, and walk back to his building. The officer just sees it. He just sees the football. Doesn't realize what's inside of it.
That's the trick.
Or other means of camouflaging items.
Yeah, that's crazy. How often do these guys get caught trying to drone and stuff?
Often. Often in the point, there are active measures to detect. We have other outside law enforcement agencies, Border Patrol, where we will receive telephone calls in the watch commander's office. Hey, just to give you a heads up, there's a drone flying over your institution. Cool, thank you. You let the officer know, hey, go outside. Do you see it? Cool. Do a security check. Go walk the yard. See if you see anything.
Well, since our last interview, Big U and a bunch of Rolling 60s were arrested and charged. You know about this case?
Yes.
I know Big U personally.
You do?
He's been on my show. We've kept in contact. Cool dude. Nothing bad to say about him at all. Never a negative interaction on any level. I was sad when I heard this. What's your take on this whole situation? It's a 43-count indictment.
God damn, that's a lot of indictment.
Yeah. Including RICO,
Yeah.
including extortion, prostitution, wire fraud, bank fraud, tax evasion, just a bunch of stuff. And they're trying to tie him to a murder as well.
Right.
So what's your take on this?
Well, when you tell me that and knowing some of the details, it's like, and being a former law enforcement officer in the Department of Corrections, it's almost like law enforcement will let you get away with something for so long until they finally, hatch down on it. And then they got you on all these counts. Whether some of them are true or not or stretched, it doesn't matter because there's so much crimes that have been committed and or alleged to have been committed that you're now going to have to fight for your innocence. I know they say you're innocent until proven guilty, but let's be realistic. I mean, I've been in jail 3 times and you're actually guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, I hope he pulls through it. But I mean, he's in his late 50s at this point, and
you know what? Vlad. Realistically, social media has not helped any of these people in their matters. A lot of people talk an awful lot, and this is just me watching. I'm very careful with what I say. Maybe I may slipped here or there, but I'm very cautious to not slip up. But I also try to live a good life where I'm not jeopardizing my freedom.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's reportedly representing himself after his lawyer quit, based on lack of communication and so forth. Have you seen inmates represent themselves?
I actually interviewed one that represented himself right out of prison, right out of a life sentence. And I said, how the hell did you do that, man? He said he went to the law library, read all the books, read all the laws, put together everything, typed up everything, and submitted it and won his case.
But he didn't actually go to trial.
Who's that?
The guy you're talking about. Or did he?
Yeah, he went to trial.
He went to trial.
Yeah.
And he represented himself.
Right.
I don't know how you would even do that. I mean,
I don't advise it because you really have to know what you're doing, which I don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, in the middle of the case, you can say, I object. And then the judge will be like, no, you can't object. Like, that doesn't apply here.
There is that saying, the one who represents himself as the idiot for a client. Have you ever heard that?
No.
You never heard that?
No.
The individual that represents himself has an idiot for a client.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I would never represent myself if I ever got jammed up.
I mean, I know lawyers that wouldn't represent themselves when it came to certain legal matters, because lawyers, you might be a great lawyer, but you're not a great litigator. And that will change everything in a court.
So just from watching TV, man, I know not to represent myself and to invoke my Fifth Amendment. Just from watching TV.
You had a situation where there were 2 search warrants issued against you by the feds?
California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
So the state?
By their Office of Internal Affairs.
Okay. And what was this search warrant for?
So the reason, I quit in December 2022 so that I can speak freely without fear of retaliation. I knew what the department would still come after me, but I also knew that they would have to break the law in order to come after me, which is exactly what they did. They subpoenaed Google, the company, which falls under YouTube or the umbrella YouTube.
Right.
And they said, we need this individual's email account, information to his bank account, his address, to his phone numbers, his messages, because he is a current employee of our department and has violated policy. Google, not knowing any better and trusting a law enforcement agency, divulged that information to them. Once they had that, I don't know what they found. There's really nothing in there. They were able to secure a search warrant telling the judge that I have committed numerous felonies. I haven't committed any felonies, Vlad. That's a fact. I have not committed any felonies. But out of Monterey County and Kings County, 2 search warrants were originated into my personal email account. A violation of my First and Fourth Amendment. That's a fact.
What are they looking for?
What they're honestly looking for is people who are leaking video footage from inside of the prison that may or may not be received by me.
Well, if you received it, you're not breaking the law.
Correct.
Like, you could receive a bunch of stuff.
Correct.
Now, if you say, listen, I'm going to give you $1,000 to give to an inmate to film a bunch of stuff and then send it to me as an exclusive, then yeah, you can be charged. You can't break the law in order to get footage, but if someone that you don't know, or you do know, takes it upon themselves and sends you a bunch of crazy footage.
I've never even confirmed that anybody sent me video footage. I find all my video footage on Reddit.
Okay.
So, yeah, what they cannot do is illegally access my email account to try to catch employees.
So, what's the plan? To sue them?
That is a part of the plan.
Okay.
I do have, legal representation.
Okay.
That's not okay. I felt violated. You know what I mean? That's not okay. Not that I got anything to hide in my emails, but to me, an electronic search warrant is no different than them coming around and snooping around my house.
It's a little different.
Well, I understand
It's a
that.
little different.
I understand that.
I'll
But
take the electronic search warrant over getting my house torn up.
I would choose neither.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. But if I had to choose one,
Yeah,
go through the email.
right. I got nothing to hide.
Don't rip apart my couches,
I got nothing to hide.
looking for whatever. Well, you're actually on United Gangs of America season 2, which is on Vice TV. And you talked about the Mexican street gang, the Fresno Bulldogs.
Yes.
AKA BDS or FBD or F14.
Yes.
Why do they call it F14?
They had called it the F14 because they had branched off the Norteño gang. And the Norteños represent the 1-4, the X4.
Okay,
The 14th letter in the alphabet.
got it. As opposed to 13, which is
The M.
the M. Exactly. So what did you focus on in this episode?
What I particularly focused on was the wrongful integration of Fresno Bulldog inmates onto yards that had their enemies housed on there. And who are their enemies? Sureños and Norteños. Knowing it was going to result in violence and chaos.
How deep were the Fresno Bulldogs on this yard?
11.
11 gang members versus the Norteños and the Sureños.
Because currently in California, actually since 2015, the Norteños and Sureños have formed an alliance to say. At one point they were mortal enemies.
But this is only in prison, right?
Correct.
In the street,
It's fair game in streets.
fair game, yeah. Okay. So you have this alliance of what, hundreds of gang members versus 11 guys?
On that, this took place in numerous prisons. Ironwood State Prison in Blythe, Satif in Corcoran, and Calipatria in the Imperial Valley. The one that happened on the United Gangs was focused on the integration at substance abuse treatment facility, Satif. So I believe the odds were 11 Bulldogs versus 40, 50? So 11 to 50?
Right. And didn't that lead into like a hunger strike and a bunch of other crazy stuff?
What that led to is a few individuals almost getting murdered and seeking medical treatment. It also led to managers, associate wardens getting placed under investigation for simply following the orders to mix them. Now that we're bringing more awareness to the public, hopefully the outrage grows louder.
In terms of what?
That the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation needs to start doing the right thing per policy and preserving life.
I mean, how well do these organizations, have intelligence? Like, do they really know, okay, I know for sure this guy's this gang and this gang, and we gotta almost do a puzzle piece to make sure that they're not housed with these guys, but then again, they got beef with these guys. Okay, so this doesn't work, and it's almost like musical chairs in a way. You know what I mean? Because if you talk about a gang has 5 gangs they don't get along with, like, how do you keep track of that?
It's easy to keep track of it. I was almost going to say that it's 100% foolproof to keep track. Because even if you're not keeping track of it, the next person next to you is and will inform you, hey, those guys should not be mixed. But what I'm alluding to is that the administration does not care. They do not heed advice from their subordinates. And even though we tell them, do not mix these group of inmates, they continue to mix a group of inmates, knowing the repercussions. And that's the bad part about it. Because morally and ethically, if I tell you, hey, do not do this because somebody's going to get killed, as far as I'm concerned, there's a moral obligation to prevent that.
Well, yeah, I actually looked it up. Like, right now, there's a hunger strike in California prisons because I guess they're going through the biggest restrictions since COVID. You know about this?
100%.
Okay, so what's happening?
In 2014, the prison gang leaders got released from Pelican Bay State Prison and Corcoran Prison as a result of the Ashker settlement, the long-term SHU, Security Housing Unit. I believe that highly pissed off CDCR administration, where they said, okay, you guys want to beat us in a lawsuit? I got something for you guys. This is now what I'm starting to see. On top of that, the prison gangs, the Mexican Mafia, they seized all hostilities with other races. I watched that stop overnight. Before, they used to riot with blacks and whites all the time. That stopped overnight. I think that also pissed off administration. Oh, you guys think you're fucking clever. This is what we're gonna do now. We're gonna mix you with child molesters. We're gonna mix you with the person that snitched on you. So, of course, they're gonna kill each other. So now that they've created chaos, they got rid of all consequences. Drugs are through the roof. Mental illness is through the roof. You know who they punished? The guys that are actually behaving. Level 3 and level 4 inmates, GP actives. The guys that are not creating the chaos. And that's why they went on the hunger strike saying, hey, you guys are punishing us throughout the state. We have nothing to do with this mess that you created.
So what are the punishments exactly?
They're on lockdown. No visits, no tablet access. They have iPads now, similar to iPads. Mm-hmm. No visits, probably no yard recreation activities, no day room. They're on lockdown.
Okay, so now they're going on a hunger strike.
Yes.
How effective is this?
Hunger strikes are extremely effective coming from a former lieutenant that knows the ins and the outs. Hunger strikes are extremely effective.
Really?
CDCR headquarters fears hunger strikes.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe because of the public outrage that it gets. And because of the oversight from Office of Inspector General, OIG. So because there's all this oversight and all this exposure, they fear hunger strikes.
Oh, meaning that a bunch of people are going to come in to investigate it. And that could unearth a bunch of other stuff they're trying to hide.
Ooh, shit, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, maybe they're afraid of people looking because they're going to find stuff.
Yeah, I mean, do people usually die during hunger strikes?
In the past ones, they did.
Yeah.
But there's a whole medical procedure. There's a whole entire procedure for when inmates go on a hunger strike. First thing is you go in there and you remove all the food from their cell. Don't ask me why they do that, Vlad. They've just been doing that for years. Then they have to continuously weigh the inmates on a scale to track their weight.
Like, what's the longest you've seen someone go on a hunger strike?
I mean, not individual-wise. I guess like a month or a little bit longer. But, you know, that's not to say they weren't maybe eating peanut butter packets that were getting fished under their door or drinking water.
So for a whole month, they really didn't have a full meal. Just little.
I would say that Pelican Bay 2012 hunger strike was fairly long, probably upwards to 2 weeks to a month-ish.
Okay, and at the end of that, do the inmates all just look crazy, like skeletons?
No, they don't, because if that was the case, it would have stuck out to me, and it didn't. Like I said, I think they're eating they're nibbling on something.
Kind of faking it.
Not all the way faking it, but faking it. You know what I mean?
Kind of faking it, yeah.
But I mean, if you could eat and tell people you're on a hunger strike, I'm pretty sure it'd be beneficial to eat something.
I mean, how do you think that this hunger strike will end?
Well, shit, when you put it that way, I'm pretty sure the department's going to give them what they want, the demands that are being asked.
So they're actually going to cooperate with them?
All they do is cooperate.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
Why? Because, if people start dying, then all the negative press will make them look bad and potentially get warrants fired and so forth, or what?
The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation and the CDCR administrators are like two parents that shouldn't be parents raising fucking children that shouldn't be raising children.
Okay.
They have created a fucking disaster for everybody else.
Huh.
And that's a fact.
Hope it works out, man. I hope it works out. Yeah.
Yeah, I quit.
Well, that's what it is. Hector Bravo, man. Always a pleasure when you come in here, man. And, having an actual OG prison guard really break these things down, I think is important because everyone always thinks they know how it works and so forth. You were actually there. And I love how you just break down, the myth versus the actual facts behind everything.
Yeah, bro, I got documentation. I appreciate you for always having me on here, man. It's
of course, man.
It's a great experience.
Thank you, man. Till next time. Peace.